Welcome, friends. Diane Halfman here with another episode of Live Your SpaLife Show. SpaLife is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony can coexist. You are in for a real treat today with my guest, Dr. Michele Gunderson. Dr. Michele Gunderson teaches visionary messengers how to tap into the secret power of story to catapult both their businesses and their lives. A best-selling author and former university instructor, Michele is known by many as the breakthrough story expert. She helps heart-centered entrepreneurs create empowering stories in every aspect of their businesses, from speaking and networking to managing a team to getting the words out. Her clients go from not knowing what they want to offer to creating 5 or 6 figure months in a business that they love. When you discover your own empowering story with Michele, you can learn to play more, have fun, create profitable businesses, and powerfully share your gifts with the world. Michele, welcome, and thank you for being here as part of the conversation of SpaLife.
Thank you, Diane. It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, it's great to have all of you guys here with me. And once again, remember that SpaLife is a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony can coexist. So, Michele, many people live their life by default instead of by design. So one of the things we want to share with our friends out here is that how are you consciously creating your life so that you are creating that SpaLife for yourself?
That's a great question, Diane.
Thanks.
So I create my life. I create the story of my life. For me, that's what it's all about. So a lot of people create the story. I've done it myself, creating the story of my life in ways I don't even know. It's somebody else's story. It's somebody else's way of thinking about things. And it can happen in the morning, for instance, when I'm with my daughter. She's 17, getting ready for school in the morning. And all of a sudden, everything goes crazy, right? And if I think that my life really isn't my own, if I think that everything's going to go downhill, that no matter how we start out, it's always going to get worse, then everything falls apart. But if I start to realize, Diane, that I'm always living my life as a story, that everything is always a story, and so when I can shift the story, my life shifts, right? So if I'm saying it's always going to go wrong, and we always start out this way, but then we get out into the car, and things are going to fall apart, it's downhill, right? But instead, what's the shape of the story that I'm creating? And then that creates the shape of my space that I live in. That creates the shape of my relationship with my daughter. It shapes my work with my clients. And what I need to do is I need to align with a very different kind of story to make it real. So I guess it sounds theoretical, but it's really not. It's very practical. It's like, what do I do when I'm brushing my teeth? And what do I do when I'm eating breakfast? And how do I create something that is an empowering story, make it real, make it aligned?
I love that idea about an empowering story, because, we hear a lot of times from people, like, they all have a story, right? But to actually make that conscious shift into making it an empowering story really makes that difference, where you're creating your life by design. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, well, often we think that story is something far away from us, that it has nothing to do with me. And maybe it's that shape that I learned in high school. And I know that it's something about climax and rising action and all this stuff. And we really don't know that it's what we're living. We watch a movie, and why does it move us? Well, it moves us because it feels like our lives. So when I can stop looking at what somebody else is doing, I can stop looking at wishing for some other life, some other day other than this one right here, right now, and know where I am in the story too. That's really important, right? Instead of going, it's all going downhill from here because, I spilled the blueberries on the floor and the coffee is, spilled and the breakfast is burned or whatever it is. That's just the middle of the story.
Right. I love that.
That's just the middle of the story.
And you can shift that. And I love how you talk about in terms of like the day. And that kind of brings me into, how many times you'll have a conversation with somebody and you'll ask them how they're doing. And that instantaneous, I'm so busy. Right. And it's like busy is that buzzword that's happening. And, when people are, as successful as you are, they're thinking like you must have more than the 24 hours that everyone else has. However, that is something that is just that level playing field that we all have, is that same 24 hours. So what are some of your SpaLife secrets that allows you to have more impact in your day, that you're making the most of those 24 hours?
another beautiful question, because I get this one life, This is the time that I have. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to use it? And so instead of letting somebody else control my life, instead of playing a bit part in somebody else's story, focus, intentionality. I figure out what's really essential, what's really important in my life, and I let the rest drop away. And so often it's somebody else's story that is running the show. And Diane, you were there that day in my life. I lost my life partner many months ago now, and he was often playing a role in somebody else's life. I mean, he was at a heart of gold. But it's like, let me do this for that person, this for that person. Very generous. Great to be generous, right? But what's the center of my life? What really matters to me. And so I was always saying to him, take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself. And I love this, what you say, Diane, about SpaLife. It's like, can we put our lives at the center and flow out of that? And it's very personal to me. It's really important, right? Can I live the life that I'm meant to live, right? Let me put me at the center of the story.
Right, absolutely. And I love you bringing that aspect of self-care. A lot of people think of that as a luxury or an extra, or when I get some more time that I'll have that. But that essence of having that self-care, it really is that putting oxygen on yourself first. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you don't have any energy, you don't have anything else to give out into the world. So that's we've all had these different things, and you've had something particularly in this last year where you just really have to get crystal clear on life is short.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It was this heart that went, and what is it? How do we use our hearts, right? How do I use my heart in my daily life? And can I create from the heart? Always. And maybe not always, because sometimes I may be in the middle of the story where the now it's the granola that's spilled or the tire is flat or whatever it is. And can I know that that's just the middle of the story? A tragedy ends. It's like, it starts out well, but then everything went downhill. No, then what did I do at that moment, right? And when I create that different story inside me to start, then I have the possibility to create something from intention, right? Like one of my students, Katie, she had that very focused intention. It's like, what am I going to create by this year? So she creates these outrageous goals, and she met them all by March 1st. Like, then she's kind of like, Michelle, now what? Like, it's a good kind of problem to have.
Right. I love that.
Focused intentionality. This is what I'm going for. And when there's messy bits in the story, to know that I still get to create it. I get to create, I can create the space like you do with these beautiful spaces that you create, Diane. I walk into your house and it's like, I start doing yoga right away because it feels like a spaciousness. It feels like joy. It feels like I know where I am in the story. Whatever else has happened up until that moment, I can create something new right here, right now. And what's inside me will create a new vision for myself, for my clients, for my daughter, for the world, right?
Right. I love that you have this foundation around story, because, it really brings up for me just this whole thing about, do we really know where the beginning and end of a story is? Because what may be the end of a story on one aspect may actually be the beginning of the next story.
Absolutely.
And how it all ties together. And, you talk about so much the richness and the deepness of story. So, Michelle, why is it so important to you to have story as part of your life's path and your understanding, and how it's the foundation of all you're doing now?
Thanks, Diane. Stories are everywhere. I think that's the thing, Stories are everywhere. Sometimes we think, like right now, we're sharing stories about our lives, right? And sometimes we think, well, now I'm telling a story, and now I'm not. Now I'm in the world of fact. Now I'm in the world of my everyday life. And I might think the facts are that I've got, like in your world, this beautiful SpaLife that you create. I've got stacks of paper here, and I think these are factual. So now I'm telling a story, and now I'm not. But I'm always creating the story, and it touches every single area of my life. It's about the space I live in. It's about the relationships I create. It's in every aspect of my world. And so when I can create it from the inside out, sometimes I think we do opposite but parallel work, Diane, because you start with a space.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what will that create inside you?
Right.
And for me, it's like, well, can I create a different story inside me?
Mm.
And when I do that, it has a ripple effect. And I'll create a different space. I'll create a different life. I'll create a different world. And so I'd mentioned that, you were with me that the day that I heard the news about the death of my man, and the day after that, the next morning, I was on a call with a friend, and we always shared our wins, right? We still do. Every Friday we share our wins. I said, I want to share this time, and I want to videotape it even. It's the day after my man died, and it's like, what are my wins here?
Right.
Because I get to create this. The story doesn't end here. There's another chapter. And yeah, I cried, but I laughed too. And so much that can be created when we know stories are everywhere. Some are empowering, some are not.
Right, right.
And I can choose.
Well, and then, just by your experience, there were so many different emotions that move through, and so many things, that realizations and experiences and things where you're able to share more about what your experiences was him because of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different perspective.
Well, it creates a whole different experience of it. So some people say, well, you went to teach a week-long retreat 2 days after he died. How did you do that, Michelle? Right? And where we were was, you would love the space. Right? Because beautiful spa energy, quiet mind, quiet center. And it's like, wait, Michelle, how did you do that? How could you do that so quickly afterwards? And it's like, well, because the story doesn't end here.
Right.
And then when I know that I'm creating the story, I can more deeply live every moment of my life. And then I'm not going to want that piece of paper out of place. I'm not going to want that cupboard, kitchen counter that's filled with mess, because I'm used to alignment. I know that that's my birthright. That's my story. That's what I have for me and for the people around me. When my clients came to me, just because I was across the room, somebody said, how are you doing, Michelle? I said, I love my life.
Right.
Came from the inside out. And she's like, who does that? Who says that? Nobody says that, right? Tell me more about that.
Right,
Where does that come from?
Well, and how honoring it was for him, for you to be stepping into not only living your work that you do, but to touch the lives of other people and letting them know that circle does come full round.
Yeah, so this is my story then. At that moment, there's no other place that I want to be. There's no other people that I want to be with. I want to be in service right now. I know that there's love here. I know that I have something to contribute. I know that he loved this space. It has that quiet energy of joy and tranquility and connectedness. And so I get to step into a world where I get to both care for my students in this moment, and I know they're going to be caring for me as they did.
Right.
Just amazing. And then when you carry that as a story, instead of everything always goes wrong, the spaces you live in are different. The way you live your life is different. How you care for your clients is different. And I'm, why do I teach this stuff? Because I want to learn it. Do I always tell an empowering story? I'll ask my daughter, not always, right?
Right. It's funny. It was just brought up to me recently about how a lot of times people teach things that they want to learn. But I had someone talk about, they actually clarified that message is that we actually teach something that we want to master. It's a much different thing than just learning about it. We're really looking at it from just a place of excellence.
Oh, that's beautiful. I've heard it like we teach what we most want to learn and remember, but to master, it's like walking into your home, and there's such peace. Thank you for that experience. There's such joy. There's such centeredness. There's such love, right?
Yeah.
And it really extraordinary. And then to me, that kind of aligned space speaks to an empowering story. These two things are deeply connected.
They are, absolutely. And that was part of the design and the creation, is that I wanted the people that I love to walk into my home and feel like it was home for them. So
and that happens, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Good.
And you created that story in advance too, right? Like from the perspective of what I do and what I love, that piece about story. I have that intention. I have that story. I have that way that my world opens out, and it's not somebody else's story about how this space is supposed to go.
Right.
What I love, you love it when people can come in and they feel at home, and then you've created that. And that to me is beautiful. That's living life with intention. That's living life with purpose. That's living life the way it's meant to be. You at the center of the story. And when you're at the center of your story, you let others be that too as they walk into your space.
Definitely. And that, my friends, is SpaLife. So, Michele, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Yes, absolutely. So just to reiterate, stories are everywhere. They're on the chairs we're sitting on, you know. Somebody made it with love, or they were yelling at somebody when they did it. You know, that's what the story was, right? And they're empowering and disempowering stories, and you can choose. I think it's that you can choose. That's the piece that I want to underline. Just like you choose the spaces you live in, you choose the people that you invite into your life. We all do when we know that we were in control of the story. So if you want a space of ease, and a story that can even encompass the chaos too, right? Because I don't know, is a dish ever out of place? Maybe I can't ask you this, Diane. Is there a different dish ever out of place? Is it, you know, right? But it can be real. It can be lived. And when I know that I can choose it, and when something goes haywire in my life, I'm just like, well, where am I in the story, right? I can choose where I go from here. I can choose what I make of this moment, where I go from here.
Right. I love that. You know, it's funny about you talking about something being out of place. You know, it's interesting because when it comes to organizing your space and creating a space of what it is, you know, it's not just because it's like a neat stack of pile, you know, that's our end goal to have. Of course, you know, I do like that. However, you know, it's for what it does to our life. It's how we are allowed to be because of what we created in this space. So it's much more important than the actual system of it is how we get to be because of it. So that is such a huge thing. So one of the things I always like to ask of my guests is, you know, because it's intentional on how we create our environment and what we are choosing to live in. What is your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh. Now I'm blushing, right? I can't answer that question.
I think there might be a theme with my guests.
Well, let me just say it's a place it's a sanctuary, right? It's a place of deep rest. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you were going to ask me that. Yeah. Yes. No, but I guess it is. I practice yoga in there as well. And so it's my bedroom, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's where there's ease. It's where the day begins and ends. Because what's the story that I'm going to create today? And you know, when I get up out of bed in the morning, I don't get up right away. Every now and then I do, but mostly it's just, this is a good moment. This is the beginning of a new day. And it's delicious, and I love my life. And I wonder what's going to be created today, and it's just on the edge of a new story. It's a continuation of the one before, and I go to bed at night, and I think, well, what has this day been? So it's a place of story creation. I didn't know that until you asked me this question. So that's very beautiful. And I can't tell you all the stories I've been creating there.
A rich unfolding. Yes. I love that. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We know how precious the time is together and who we choose to spend our time with. And so I'm honored with that. So tell me, I'm sure that our viewers would love to hear more from you, and how can our listeners keep in contact with you?
Well, thanks for asking that question. It's a great question because I would love to stay in touch with you. And so the best way would be to go over to michelegunderson.com/anatomy and download. That's my free e-guide. It's called Anatomy of an Empowering Story. So Anatomy of an Empowering Story. And I want to tell you, Diane, I had a disempowering story about this myself. Because it's what so I did my PhD on. I wanted to understand what is it that creates an empowering story, and I spent years of my life and worked with closely with high-end clients, like doing this work. And I thought, I don't know how to say this in a few words. I don't know how to express it, right? Even after 25 years working with words and stories. And then when I did, I'm like, no, that's just a disempowering story. So it's the best of my understanding of what story is about. And it's pretty succinct. It's not that long. And it's like, what are the big mistakes that we make with story? Like, what's the biggest mistake? And how do I start to create that empowering story in my life? So I would love for you to keep in touch with me there. Go and grab that free e-guide, and then let me know, like, what's been helpful to you? What's helped your story? So get in touch, send me an email, send me a note, and I would love to hear. So that's
fabulous. That's perfect. All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time and sharing this space with me and having the conversation around SpaLife. And so for those of our viewers who are watching this going, I really want to step into my SpaLife and not sure where to start with that, I invite you also to get my ebook that has the Step Into Your SpaLife. And you can get that at dianehalfman.com/guide. And by doing that, you can have look at the 9 elements that have you step into that space, because I would love for you to be in that space of creating your SpaLife. So let's once again get that link from Michele so you can have that SpaLife and your stories together.
So it's MicheleGunderson.com, 1 L in Michele, but I think you can get there any old way, right? MICHELE, MicheleGunderson.com /anatomy.
Fantastic. All right, friends, thank you for joining us here. And until we talk again, live your SpaLife. Bye for now.